Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Reese Washington, one of the staff psychologists with the Howard Counseling Service, here with our panel of experts to talk about healthy relationships, both romantic relationships and platonic relationships. So we're going to start with a little background information about relationships, and then we'll pick our panelists' brains with some questions. So, healthy versus unhealthy, right? What is a healthy relationship? It encompasses mutual respect, open communication, trust, and feeling comfortable. Unhealthy relationships, we like to think of like involves manipulation, control outside of your will, definitely lacks respect, very poor communication, and may leave one partner feeling unsafe and anxious. So some of the key aspects of a healthy relationship are that respect, open communication, and support, and equality, and healthy conflict resolution, right? Because in relationships, you're going to have conflicts. And so you have to be able to work those things out. Some more signs of unhealthy relationships are going to be that controlling behavior. We all are naturally, can be jealous or feel like we have a possession, but we don't want that to come out in our relationships, be it our friends or our partners. And we don't want any kind of verbal abuse, name calling, or, making our partners or friends feel like they need to choose us and no one else, as well as any kind of emotional manipulation or intimidation, making that partner or friend feel like, if they do something, it's wrong or fearful or threatened. So I think it's important in relationships to talk about, in both any relationships that we're having, is our attachment styles, right? And the attachment theory came from John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, and they theorized our attachment style comes from our emotional connection with our primary caregiver, whoever that was or is. And they are characterized by how we react in our relationship, most notably when we're having a difficult time. And so there's kind of four based on this particular theory, but some more different names have come out, but these are particularly secure, anxious or ambivalent, avoidant, dismissive, and disorganized attachment styles. So why it's important to know what your attachment style is because how do you respond when you're in a relationship, and understanding how that attachment style influences how you behave with your partner or your friends, especially when something is going on. For instance, someone with a secure attachment style may be able to openly share their feelings and seek support. And if you have more of an insecure attachment style, that may look more like becoming needy or clingy or needing closer relationships, maybe behaving in more selfish or manipulative ways. Now, it's not a doom or gloom like, oh my gosh, I'm not secure. It's just a note to say, okay, this is something I need to work on. So the next slide kind of asks, like, how do you show up in relationships? What does it look like? And kind of notes, you may not be able to see it very well, but kind of notes the different behaviors that quantify anxious, avoidant, insecure, or disorganized. Okay. All right. So then moving pretty quickly, the three pillars of a healthy relationship are communication, respect, and trust. So communication refers to openly expressing your needs and feelings to each other. Respect is valuing your partner's or friend's opinions, feelings, and boundaries. And trust refers to feeling confident in your partner or your friend's reliability, honesty, and loyalty. Okay? So, communication, you want to openly be able to share your thoughts and feelings with your partner or friends without the feeling of judgment, and working through the defensiveness using active listening and I statements, which really help you to avoid the defensiveness in those conversations, and addressing conflict versus avoidance and suppression. Those are a couple notes of how you engage in open communication. And then respect, we also want to think about boundaries and limits. So respect is the freedom to be you and loved just the way that you are. So valuing your loved one through respecting their noted boundaries, physical and emotional, validating their feelings, avoiding insults or condescending language, and taking responsibility for your actions, apologizing, right? Okay, trust, according to the dictionary, is a firm belief in a reliability or truth, ability or strength of someone or something. So being trustworthy means doing what you say you're going to do, and when you say you will do it. You know, I'm sure you've heard at some point someone say your word is your bond, right? That means, like, if you say you're going to do it, if you say you're going to be there, you got to do it. And in a relationship, it also means providing emotional and physical faithfulness. So, you know, not straying away, or if you're referring to a romantic relationship. And then showing care and compassion to those we love and care about also develops trust. And being transparent and honest. All right, so one more thing. I thought it was important to also include another theory of love. So this is Sternberg's triangular theory of love. And so he said that love is composed of 3 different components. So there's lots of different theories of love out there. That's why I put this one in here too. Intimacy, passion, and commitment. And the different combinations of these 3 elements creates different forms of love. So intimacy, the feeling of closeness and connection. Passion, intense feelings of excitement, attraction, and desire. And commitment, the decision to stay in a relationship and work towards the future. All right, and there's like about, I want to say there was 8 different types of combinations that he talks about. It's liking, friendship, infatuation, empty love, romantic love, compassionate love, fatuous love, and consummate love, right? And so those combinations of those three aspects fill in all of these different combinations of love. And then this is kind of like the triangle of how those different components can portray in those different relationships and types of love. Okay. All right. And then one other main point is, don't forget the importance of getting to know yourself, right? Because if you don't know yourself, you don't know how you're going to show up in a relationship. You have to, it's important for you to know your values, what your stuff is, meaning like your experiences, what bothers you, what you like, what you don't like, and what are you seeking in your relationship, and what are your personal boundaries. Okay? All right, so quick tidbit on healthy, unhealthy relationships and what makes them healthy. Okay, so I would like to introduce our experts on relationship. Each one of them are going to introduce themselves and tell where they work, what they do, and then maybe give a little spiel on their thought about relationships. And then I'll be asking them some questions, and then we can open it up to the audience. Okay? All right, you can start with me.
How y'all doing? I am Paul Bashir Williams. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, psychotherapist. I'm a private group practice. We service the DMV, Maryland, Virginia. It's about 8 of us. I'm also the author of Dear Future Wife, a man's guide to women's reference to healthy relationships, something that I wrote back in 2015. think for me, relationships are about being unselfish, right? And being curious about your partner. Because as long as you're curious, you'll find an answer to your partner.
Being curious, okay. Alright. That's a good nugget. Okay,
Cool.
Mr. King.
Good evening, everyone. My name is AJ King. He is his pronouns. I'm the director of the Office of Intercultural Affairs and LGBTQ Resource Center here at Howard University, with a bachelor's in social work and my master's in mental health and rehabilitation counseling. And you know, there's a lot I could say about relationships, right? So I'm really on this panel to provide a lens through the LGBTQIA spectrum, which often isn't talked about that often, right? I think that we see on TV what that looks like. I think that then we have our tropes and our stereotypes. You know, lesbian woman get the U-Haul truck after day one, right? And gay men just have sex, and that's all it is, you know. But I think that what, you know, a perspective I want to come around is how it is so revolutionary to be in a queer relationship just as it is, that we don't have a blueprint on what that should look like, which gives us a little more autonomy to explore even more options of that more heteronormative, monogamous, like straight edge kind of experience, right? So, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you know, that's kind of have a bit of a different experience. So, what I come with is being able to define the relationship what works for you two, or you three, right? And yeah.
I'm Dr. Shannon Buford. I am a behavioral health postdoctoral fellow here at Howard University's Department of Community Health and Family Medicine. Dr. Ruiz Washington actually took what would be my number one takeaway about relationships, which is the importance of your relationship with yourself. But since you already said that, I think the backup thing that I find very important, pulling from some of Bell Hook's work, is around the importance of kindness in our relationships, especially within Black community. The world has been so hard on us, and I think that there are a lot of intergenerational traumas that we've experienced that's kind of taught us to be a little bit more, sometimes it can come across as harsh in our relationships, and just understanding that we oftentimes are coming from a good genuine place, and just having a value of kindness with interacting with each other can make a huge difference. But I really think being self-aware and having a strong relationship with yourself, knowing what things might be challenging for you in relationships, knowing what things might bother you in relationships that might not bother somebody else, that for me is a very huge piece.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. T. I am the CEO of Renewal Minds for Hope. I have my own private practice. I am a licensed clinical social worker. And my tidbit about relationships is everything is not a red flag. Because we always think, oh, red flag. Everything's on TikTok. Everything is on IG. Oh, he's gaslighting you. He's this, he's that. Maybe he's just not a good communicator. So sometimes we minding somebody out because before we know really who they are.
And so we should take the time to get to know them. Okay. Can you speak to some of those red flags for us? Or green flags we should be looking for?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm getting over bronchitis. Controlling are red flags. I know not everybody has the same iPhone or same Apple, but if you are, you can, find my friend or find my phone and all that stuff and share your location. But sometimes people can use those things in a way that is controlling. Always need to know where you are, what you're doing, those types of things. Be mindful of how people treat other people, because they will treat you the same. Be mindful of how they treat their family, how they talk about their family, and how they act when things don't go their way. When you are in conflict Is it just, oh, we can get over that, that's just something little, and we never resolve it? Or is it actually, let's kind of talk about this, what happened, and resolve it?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, all right, so we'll segue. I'll ask some questions and any one of you guys can answer, and then we'll open it up to the audience, okay? All right, so, what are some common challenges that students may face when trying to build healthy relationships in college?
I think, I was in college, everybody came from different backgrounds, right, different life experiences. When you're trying to build relationships, when you know somebody to get you, you're trying to find yourself in a new place, right? So it's hard to really define and develop relationships when you have old attachments with relationships before college. Now you're walking into a new space and you feel like somebody's judging you. You feel like I have to fit in, but everybody's trying to fit in and stand out at the same time, right? So ask yourself, what is your real goal when you come here? You're probably going to find some of your best friends in college, right? As long as you're growing together. Be okay with that. Be okay with being disappointed in friendships, being in conversations about you were disappointed.
I think I could say again, I'm coming more from the lens of our LGBTQIA student population. Respect and boundaries and all that is absolutely important, but it's really interesting for our community because we don't have the autonomy to just go there, right? First, we have this whole university of students, right? And then I gotta narrow that down to what is the population or genders that I'm attracted to. Okay, that brings it down here. Okay, so then are these people also same-sex attracted? Okay, that brings us down here, right? And so now we have this small pool of people, right? So then we have a small pool of people where I still just want genuine friendships, right? So that might eliminate some more people. Is there attraction there? Are they out? Are they single? Keeps going down. And then we can start talking about respect and boundaries and trust, right? But we have a population of about this many people now, right? And so and we also have to acknowledge what safety looks like, right? Safety on campus. Am I out on campus? Am I out to my family and friends? Those are important questions as well too. And do I have community to support me? So even if, I am, attracted to this individual over here, I may not even know if they're part of the community or not. So now I'm taking a risk and there's safety issues around that as well too, right? So I think the important part is being able to identify the community, which is why it's important, like for organizations like Cascade and our center downstairs, where you can network and find other individuals within your community, and then build those completely platonic relationships, as well as possibly explore more romantic relationships as well. The reality is we're right next door to U Street. We know that U Street is a bit of a neighborhood, right? So we have a lot of different clubs and bars and locations people can meet. Again, you got to be 21 and older to get into those spaces. So we don't get the privilege of, we meaning the students who are identified, to kind of have that romanticized Howard experience of meeting my life partner in college and going off in a career and having family. It's not that easy, right? And so it's, so to answer your question, I think the challenge is really identifying community and being able to align with others who I think can also meet them where they're at.
Yeah. Is there any, if you are in the LGBTQ community and you're looking for those connections, is there kind of like a general way you can check in with people that honors that safety and security a bit more?
Yeah, so that's why I think that spaces like our center downstairs, obviously, in the Postman Affairs and LGBTQ Center are important. We have Cascade, we have very intentional LGBTQ focused events, lavender graduations, reception. We bring in speakers and networking events because we want students to also not just be in the silo of campus, right? You're in DC, you have an opportunity to meet other individuals as well too, other campuses or just walking down the street, right? But we want to make sure that you do it in a safe and healthy way. So we're very intentional of providing opportunity and exposure to the community. And again, that's speaking for those who are comfortable within their identity in this space. We want to be very, we want to create space for those who know that they may be trans, non-binary, know that they're gay, know that they're lesbian, know they're bisexual, to also know that this is a space where they can explore that. Even if it's just curiosity. Explore it. This is your laboratory. Explore it, see if you like it, try it on. If it's not for you, it's not for you. If it's for you, great. Here's the space to use.
Thank you.
I'd say another challenge is a lot of times we aren't taught how to communicate. And so being able to communicate your needs in a relationship or advocate for yourself or have healthy disagreements, we're not taught how to do those things. So you come to a space, we might know how to have conflict within like our family unit because we've been with them for 18 years. And so I know how you operate, you know how I operate. So we kind of sometimes get the same patterns. But now you're in this whole new world with all these different people from different backgrounds, and I don't know how you operate. I don't know how to communicate with that, and I haven't always been the skills to do that effectively. And so sometimes it is hard to know, like, well, how do I tell this person I don't like this, or that when they do this, it actually makes me feel this way, or this is actually a boundary that I have that you're crossing, and have healthy disagreements sometimes. I don't think we necessarily know how to do that, and it's kind of hard to develop that skill while you're in the middle of doing it. Like if I'm in the middle of having a disagreement with a roommate, in the moment, I'm gonna pull from what I know, but I might not have the skills to necessarily do that in a healthier way. So I think that is a big challenge, is that throughout college, you kind of feel like you're learning as you go with relationships. And there actually are a lot of resources and support. That's one thing I regret from my time in college, is not taking advantage of some of the resources that could help me learn how to be more effective on communicating during my relationships. Because I think that there were a lot of things, if I could just communicate and express myself, I would save myself a lot of trouble and a lot of, heartache in my friendships, relationships. So I think taking advantage of the resources that I had really would have been beneficial at that time.
So if you're thinking about like how someone would improve their communication skills, can you give us some ideas of like how they work through that? And the resources that are here? Quick look.
Well, definitely counseling services for certain, and different identity-based community groups might feel like safer groups or places with shared values. And being able to kind of connect with people. I think intimacy, as you mentioned, is really important in relationships, and so finding spaces where you can be a little bit more vulnerable with people about these are like some of the challenges that I'm having in communication, and having people who can kind of support you and work through that. Sometimes that is in the form of a therapist, sometimes that can be in the form of a friend or a partner. It can come in a variety of different ways, but I think sometimes having people who can help you be more aware. Like for example, for me, I had a conversation with my sister yesterday, and she said that how I said something was like harsh or my tone was wrong. I was like, well, because we've had conversations, she knows that she can give me that feedback, and that's something that I value. But like having a safe space where it's like, I can be imperfect, and you can tell me that that wasn't great, and I can work on it. And sometimes we need other people to help us reflect. Like our relationships really can be a mirror for us. It's just sometimes it's hard to get that feedback, but having those safe relationships where you can be open to that, I think is very important. And again, those relationships can come in a variety of different ways. It's just the openness to find them and be vulnerable, which can be really hard to do.
Yes, thank you. Can you speak to some things we can look for when it comes to unhealthy patterns in our relationships, and maybe what we can do about them, boundary setting and things of that nature?
Say no. No is an answer,
Full sentence.
a full sentence, all of it. You know, that it is okay to say no when somebody is crossing a boundary that you're uncomfortable with. I know when I was growing up, you just didn't want to hurt people's feelings all the time. You're like, I don't want to hurt you. Let me hurt your feelings, because that's what you hurt mine. And that's the only way we're going to get it together. You know, I can't continue to allow you to hurt my feelings if you not know. Because what's going to happen is you're going to keep doing it, and I'm going to keep getting hurt, and I'm going to keep getting short. So if we want to continue to have this relationship, whatever the relationship is, you know, we need to be able to be vulnerable in those spaces and be able to say, yeah, this ain't it right.
What happens when we can't say no, or we're scared, or Is there a reframe for that?
What happens is unhealthy relationships. What happens is that I am now dimmed, my spirit is probably, can be broken, and I can end up in, some really bad situations if you don't appropriately set boundaries. When we all are looking for peace and that type of thing, and you won't have peace. So you want to reframe for if I can't do it,
Yeah, because sometimes saying no is hard.
talk to somebody about it.
Sometimes saying hard is no because we're thinking about, how is this going to impact the person? Are they going to still want to be with me? Are they
Yes.
going to still want to be my friend? Is this going to, cause more conflict? If this is the no's to my roommate, the fallout, I think, is kind of oftentimes what gives people pause.
Okay.
And so, if they can't particularly say, no, I don't want this, what is something else they can maybe do or think about, or how to establish that boundary in a different way? That's not.
The first thing I think I would tell someone to do is get some support, any type, so go to your, your conflict resolution tools that you already have. What is already working for you when you are in conflict? How do you normally say, this is not, working for me, or, I feel a couple ways like this, whatever, however you put it. But I would definitely say, see what's already working, use the tools that you already have, seek support in that, any type of support. I think Dr. Hughley said that, affinity groups, where you feel comfortable, already talking, and, you can bring up those types of things up so that you can get to a place where you can appropriately set that boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work with a lot of people pleasers, and one of the things I help them normalize is they don't have a problem saying no, because they're very comfortable with saying no to themselves. So every time I say yes to this, yes to that, when I really don't want to do it, I'm saying no to myself. Right?
You got it.
So you're very comfortable.
Can you say
with
that again real fast?
Loud too.
People think they're comfortable with saying no, but they're just comfortable with saying no to other people, but we're saying no to ourselves all the time.
Yes.
Anytime you give up something that you really want to do because you want this other person to be happy, or you feel like the relationship is not going to thrive or be successful or even continue, so you give up something that you need, right? You're telling yourself no, and you're also teaching them how to show up for you and how not to show up for you. So we have a great influence on how we interact with people. And if the person that you're trying to build a relationship with can accept your no, then that's your person, right? Because we have to learn how to really show up for each other in friendships, in love, romantic relationships. Otherwise, I see couples who come married for 25 years and they come to me in the first session, they're arguing about something that happened on their first date because nobody brought it up.
Okay, so speaking to communication, we teach people how to treat us and we teach people how to treat us.
And also trust yourself that you'll be okay if you say no to them and they react in a way that's not okay, right? You'll be okay. If that's not the person, then that's another person.
Because our relationships don't necessarily, we may have a relationship, but it doesn't necessarily mean I have to, you might just be my coworker, and I have to have some type of, or my roommate. I mean, what I'm gonna tell the people, I don't like you, and they gonna move me or you, that ain't gonna work. The housing is prime picket out here, you know what I mean? So, we have to be able to move through conflict and be okay with, where we are, and just have an understanding. And that's fine too.
Right.
I also think sometimes we get in our heads about, I want to say this, but I have to say this the right way or the perfect way. Like, we're very tied to it needs to be perfect. And I think being able to reframe things as, this is a learning experience. Like, this is an opportunity for try to do it, I'm gonna give it my best effort, but knowing it, nothing is perfect, but giving it your best is important, but also the fact that like, would I rather not say this and be complicit in allowing this pattern to keep going on? Or would I at least want to give a chance to try and advocate for myself and advocate for change? But those are active choices that we're making. If I'm not speaking up for myself, in a sense, I'm being complicit to being stuck in this pattern. And so I think it is important to think about having these opportunities. They might be very difficult, like you said, but they're an opportunity for self-advocacy. It's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to learn more about yourself. And so I think, yes, it's scary, and sometimes growth is what comes on the other side of it. So just pushing yourself sometimes to try and have difficult conversations can actually be really beneficial in a lot of ways.
I have a question. What were the three tenets? It was trust, respect, and what was the other one?
Communication.
Communication. Thank you. So it's so interesting to me because, you know, when we set the boundary of no, and we're nervous to say no, I would challenge a person to ask, why are you scared to say no? And then when you look at the why are you scared to say no, because of the consequence, potential consequence, that's when we're starting to ask ourselves, do I trust this person?
Mm-hmm.
So that, okay, that's a tenet that we need to work on, right? And then if you don't trust that they are going to honor your boundaries, do they respect you? Okay, well, that's a tenet that's broken. And then that means that you can't communicate with them in a way that is effective for conflict resolution. So if we're talking about these three tenets right here, that's all going to be hard work. None of this is easy. It sounds very surface-based, like trust, respect, communicate, but that's not easy work.
Mm-mm.
If I went through my whole life and this happened to me and that happened to me, that I don't trust no one, and now you asking me to give my heart to you, I don't trust you. If I never learned effective communication skills, I grew up in a household that was violent, that's not something easy to learn in conflict. For some people, you mind if I give you a help quick? If for some people, this may be respect. For others, this may be respect, wherever you were raised. I've done that, right? So we have different definitions of that as well too. So it's all just part of that work of the tenets. It's going to be a constant battle. It's going to be constant trying yourself in different spaces. But setting boundaries is really just linked to those.
I always think of those pillars as a stool, and if one of them is not there or is shaking, the stool's always gonna be shaking and not very grounded. Yes, I agree, very much so. Okay, what kinds of things do we need to look for when we're trying to, or we need to put in place besides what I noted from the respective experts? What kinds of things do you come up in your work that you see that we need to be more focused and we need to talk about when it comes to being in friendships and partnerships? What's missing? Because I know we were chatting, before you guys got here, we were chatting about some of the things that our parents haven't taught us, and that we learned along the way, that we wish we would have known sooner.
I definitely wish I would have known effective communication.
Mm-hmm.
Just the difference in using I statements,
Yes.
owning my own feelings, not putting the blame on someone else, and how that changes the way somebody receives what I'm saying. How it further conversations, you know. And I work with WA, and anytime when I talk about communication, we always do, you know, like, I talk about the telephone, that it starts at one thing, and then by the time it gets at the end, it's something totally different, and it's gone through how many other people, right? And that's just how communication is. We think we do it. I think I'm telling you what I'm supposed to, what I feel like, but I'm really not. A lot of times, you know, I'm really not effectively doing it, and it has to go through. All these words have to go through my filters, has to go through your filters, your perceptions, what you think you know, if you think you love me, you know, all this other stuff. So I definitely wish that I knew more about the importance of effective communication.
again, coming from the career lens, let me speak from the perspective of the gay man, right? So looking at the trajectory of blueprint of a straight male, you know, elementary school, girls got cooties, right? Then middle school hits, some goes to puberty, oh, you know, that girl kind of cute, you know, whatever, you know, play with her. High school, you may, you know, experiment sexually for your first time, and then your first relationship. You go to college, you do serious relationships. You leave college, you get married, then you have children, then you have grandchildren. That's kind of the blueprint, right? So then we take a gay male, right? Your school girls got cooties, and then middle school, the girls got cooties. You know what I'm saying? But I'm still starting to get, you know, interested sexually. But the thing is, if I hit on that boy in high school, I might get jumped. Right? And then I get to college and I got to focus on my studies, and it wasn't until after I graduated college that, you know, I wanted to maybe get married, but it wasn't until a couple of years ago that was even legal, and I maybe stripped away soon, and then I kept biologically having children with my person that I love, and so I'm halted at that puberty stage of sexuality and just wanting to engage in sex because that's the last safe space that I was about to come to. So I don't believe that marriage and healthy relationships is an opportunity for me to be him. I don't know what that looks like without consequences. And so what I offer is knowing that, yes, those things are possible as far as risk, and it's also possible that it will be healthy. So you just got to take that deep dive and understand that even though we don't have a blueprint of what that healthy relationship looks like, we have the autonomy to create that for ourselves. It's a blessing. We don't have to follow this agenda. We can do what the hell we want with it, right?
Yeah.
And we can create it and make it work for us. And I don't think that we know that that's a possibility for us.
Get ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Love it. Yeah, me too. Thank you.
When I think about, I guess some of the things that I wish I was told was just to talk about relationships in general. Right? I went through, as we all did, through some trial and error, and it was a lot of errors.
Yeah.
Right? I went in the mindset of when I go to college, you graduate from high school, you go to college, you find your wife, right? You find your partner, and you get the White House, pick your fence, the dog, get the job, and all of that. And I had that in the back of my mind with every girl that I dated in college until I got my heart broken. So now I'm dealing with that trauma, and I'm avoiding healthy relationships or avoiding relationships in general. So anytime I thought about being nice, I thought about getting in a committed relationship, I remember the trauma that I never know. And I didn't deal with that trauma until maybe I was like 25, and this happened at 19. So in the back, I'm trying to, one, avoid, but I'm also trying to outwork and prove that I'm not the young boy that got cheated on. Right? So imagine that, and I have no skills, I have no help, I have nobody to talk to. All my friends are like, you're not supposed to be in a committed relationship anyway, so everybody's doing the same thing. So there's a lot of that, right? And I didn't have anybody to really just talk to about it. Like, that's what you guys need to be able to create, that community you talk about. Like, I'm hurting because this happened to me. Who can I talk to? Who can I trust? We didn't have counseling services in Johnson City, Tennessee, where I work. We just didn't have it. So I became a counselor because I became what I needed.
I think I would add, what has come up that I would add is like the importance of like learning how to have this awareness and also learning to apologize. That was something that was tough for me, but I'm not perfect. No one else is perfect. I make mistakes. And the more I've grown in my relationships, the more people have been authentic enough to tell me when I'm making mistakes and hold me accountable for those mistakes. And I have to apologize. And I didn't realize I didn't really know how to do that in a genuine way versus like, I'm sorry, like, when I reflected on it, I'm aware of the impact my actions had, and I care about you. Like, I disappointed myself. I apologize. I'm sorry. I would never intend to do that. And I'm making the commitment to do better. I think that there are just like a lot of pieces of it where it's like my pride was in the way, my ego was a little too big to say I'm sorry, or I can't admit to you that I'm wrong, and maybe behind closed doors I can, but I think learning how to take accountability is something that can be very humbling, but necessary in our relationships, because we will all mess up. We're not perfect people by any means, and we never will be. And so just being able to own our stuff sometimes is hard, but necessary to have healthy relationships.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, learning how to say sorry, definitely is difficult.
And sometimes you have to remove, like I know you said that, like it wasn't my intention, right?
Mhm.
That doesn't remove the sting, right? It's intention versus impact.
Right, absolutely.
So sometimes we need to apologize and change the behavior,
Right,
right? Because sometimes it sounds like a whole bunch of fluff.
yeah,
And we do like,
exactly.
my intention, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
words.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
being able to communicate that effectively.
Right, and not saying sorry, I made you feel that way.
Yeah, so
You
I'm
know?
sorry if I made you.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
sorry if I hurt you.
Yeah.
Sorry if I did.
I used to always be like, I don't wanna say sorry because I meant to do it. You know, and that's like so deep. But something I was thinking that I wish that I would have learned, you know, about relationships, notably romantic, is that, you know, you're still, you know, a woman, you're still great, even without the man, the picket fence, and the children, and all of that. And you can pick a different lifestyle or a different path, and you don't have to have the pressures of what everyone says that you're supposed to do. Figuring out that path along the way was quite hard, not having that particular message.
That's pretty big in our community,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Because it is pretty clear line.
Yeah, and it comes from both sides, because I'm Afro-Latina, so, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, that's really, I'm really glad that you said that, because sometimes we don't really think of things culturally too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just kind of in our own bubble,
Right,
you know.
right, and it really does impact us in how we view our relationships and such. Yes. Okay, does anyone have any questions for our panelists about relationships or how to do anything in a relationship?
What are some common issues that you think are prevalent in relationships, especially within like a young adult population?
I think everybody wants love expedited, but it's part of where society is now, right? It's part of your upbringing. Like my son is 19, he's in college, and I purposely slowed everything down. So he doesn't have the expectation that he'll get this tomorrow, right? But, you know, when he goes in a relationship with his partner, there's a lot of things that she expects him to have right away. It's like you're 19. And take your time, right? You have your life to live. You guys don't need to rush a whole bunch of different things. And you also need to know how to communicate effectively, just like everybody else said. But I think, you know, even some of the young adults I work with, everyone gets their information from social media.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't realize like a lot of these scenarios that are going viral are made up. They're not even what people are really going through. And it might be one, if there's a paragraph, it might be 2 words in that paragraph that you relate to. You say that's me. And then you're adopting the trauma of the story that somebody else is telling.
That part.
So just be mindful. Because it's entertainment. Find somebody offline and talk to.
Yes, I agree. Somebody reputable, somebody that just doesn't say that this is what they do or who they are, that you can actually look them up. Okay, we are in.
Oh, they have credentials?
Yes, that's what I mean, yes. So they have, you know, we are here in DC, I'm licensed in DC, I'm licensed in Maryland. Like, there are websites that you can go and make sure that people, you know, have the knowledge, you know, that you're seeking. I will also say, domestic violence. Because I think sometimes people don't realize that they're in a domestic violence relationship when it's not physically violence. You know, we need to know what that looks like with all of these things that we were talking about earlier, that you can find me and stalk me and all that type of stuff. And, oh, that's cute. Oh, okay, you know, he wanna drive my car and drive me to work and pick me up. Yeah, but is that because he wanna know where you at during the day? And be account, you know, those types of things. So I think knowing about the other avenues that domestic violence shows up as, it's not always a bruise that you can see, but it is a bruise that's there.
Echoing my brother over here, I think that we do live in that expedited space, but in 2025, from a romantic perspective, we're right here, right? And we're talking about people we want to fall in love with, right? So that means trusting them with finances, trusting them with your heart, trusting them with your family, to raise your child, to do all that. And we take half a second based off a photo or on Tinder or whatever, where it's the best photo in their album, where they're made up and lightly filtered. But we don't even explore, are they that person who I want to love? We love that photo. And so that's just kind of where we're at with it right now. So I think that if you're intentional about meeting people in different spaces, there's nothing wrong with online apps, but I think if you actually read a profile and or give them a chance to engage in conversation, and explore other options. Go to a networking event. Go to find out what your likes are, right? Listen, I'm a Housewives fan. I watch a lot of Housewives. I went to BravoCon and met some dope people. You know what I'm saying? I talked to them today. Met a food thing for the weekend. So, you know, you meet people with like-minded interests, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, you know, if you're into anime, go to an anime convention. If you're into gardening, go meet your group, right? And so you'll find people with like-minded interests. You get to meet them in person, engage in conversation, and then really see if that's where you want to be at, you know, or grow with that person. That's friendships and romantic. So that's where I'm at with it. I think that is just kind of where we're at right now in society, and the reality is with AI and all these other things happening, it's going to get more deep. So we have to kind of nip that in the bud if we really want to find the love that you're looking for.
I would agree with that. That's basically what I was going to say too. I think due to COVID and just all the advancements in technology, people have learned how to foster relationships online more effectively. However, that doesn't always mean that they're healthy. And I think a lot of times it actually can lack intimacy. Just because I'm liking your picture or, you know, commenting on something every now and then, that doesn't mean we actually have depth to our relationship. And so I think sometimes learning how to like put the phone away, like let me actually see, do we connect in real life? Like is this a person who I can build a genuine, authentic relationship with? And I don't think we really talk a lot about authenticity, but from relational cultural theory, like authenticity is very important. It's me being able to be myself and like be the fullness of myself, not being afraid of the consequences of that, just like being who I am fully. I lost my train of thought. I still apologize to that, but
It'll come back.
but I think that's what it is exactly. You know, seeing like, is this a relationship where I can authentically be myself offline, or is it something where this only makes sense if we can comment back and forth online? Like, is that the only safe way we can have a relationship, or is there something deeper here? Can we have vulnerability? Can we have difficult dialogue? Can we talk about real things? Can we not just have fun? Which I also do think that because of like social media and just the dopamine rush that you get from swiping, people kind of it's more focused on instant gratification. And I think sometimes, going back to the red flags piece, people think that things that are boring are red flags. However, maybe the red flag is that we feel like things that are toxic and chaotic are exciting or passionate, and we think that that's how, like, the right way to show love.
Yeah.
Boring is not always bad.
Yes.
Can you sit down with somebody and you do your thing, I do my thing, and coexist peacefully? Can we do that?
Right.
Or even have a conversation.
Yeah.
Are we talking?
Yeah.
Are we texting?
Yeah.
Are we Snapchat? Is that the thing that dating myself, that's the thing that you kids do, so I know. But it's, you know, using Snapchat, you know, are we DMing and all of that type of stuff? You know, are we really sitting down and having meaningful conversation? You know.
In the depth of the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, what kinds of questions are we asking? What are we talking about?
Yes.
Not, what's your favorite color?
Right.
But like,
Right.
how did your last relationship go? You know,
Right.
those sorts of things.
Yes.
And getting, and to note of your swiping, AJ, is, I was thinking about how, you know, social media and the dating apps, you know, have a lot of positives, but a lot of negatives, right? And we get into this phase of the next best thing. I can just swipe. I don't really have to put work into my relationship with you because there's always someone over there, literally, that I can swipe to next. And so I think that really removes us, even in friendships, from doing that extra work that we need to maintain this friendship or this partnership, because there's all open access to someone else. And I don't know how to fix that piece, because social media is not going anywhere, and either is the dating apps.
And also, to add on to your question, you know, something that has been a challenge for, I noticed, I'll do it geographically in DC, but DC. For gay, bisexual men, that I've noticed is that there's a lot of feminophobia within the community, where if you are not masculine, I don't want to date you, and I may not want to be friends with you. Now, you yourself can be a full butch boy, right? A fuck boy, right? But it does not matter. If you're masculine, you want a masculine dude. If you're feminine, you want a masculine dude, right? And so, if you are not this epitome of masculinity, you don't check the box. And then, and mind you, remember what I talked about earlier, how we were already bringing it down here? We decided making more boxes. So there is, you know, are you masculine, are you feminine? Are you light skinned, are you dark skinned? Are you a top, are you a bottom? There's all these things that you have to check. Are you living with HIV or you're not living with HIV? Like all these things that are check boxes until we are pretty much down in hell, because we don't put lost kind of there and down to there, where we become so segmented. Are you a club head? And then, so there's that piece. And then when I was on the DC piece, I want to also name is, there's an issue here with elitism. You know, I think that's not just the gay community, but you know, it's very, very Regina George in our communities. You know, oh, I don't go to Nelly's because I make six figures and I'm a G15 and I go to house parties, and if you don't make as much as me, then you're not welcome in my space. And and you have to go to the gym. If you're not in the gym, it's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
You got to be slim or have a muscular body. If you don't have any of the above, sorry, you didn't make the cut. So there's a lot of things that we're doing within our community that is also very toxic, making it harder for people to engage. And I'm not talking about just romantic. I'm talking about platonic friends as well too.
Yeah.
Like if you're not given, then you can't sit with us.
I have a question. Well, actually two questions. So first, from what you just said, like, what are ways that we can like actually like start getting rid of those boxes? Like, how can we like make it not be so elitist and exclusive, and how can we start making more inclusive spaces for our community? And then my second question is also, how can we like when we'll find ourselves in situations where it's like you want to be vulnerable with someone, but it's really hard and it's really difficult and it's uncomfortable. How can we like push ourselves and challenge ourselves to be vulnerable when it's hard?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Just one thing about the vulnerability, I'll just say this. So vulnerability is an opportunity to be protected. Like, we have a negative thought process of vulnerability. It's an opportunity to be protected. And if they don't do that, then the relationship is disrupted, and then you know that I can't trust this person with that piece, right? But I still trust myself that I'm gonna be okay, even though I went through this bad experience with being vulnerable.
Can you give us an example of how vulnerable?
How vulnerability is
Yes,
opportunity.
I just jumped on out there, I'm so sorry.
So I
Yes,
have
can you
like,
give us an example of how vulnerability, what that looks like, being an opportunity to be protected? What does that look like?
there's so many. I just think about like one of my closest friends. Like every time we got on the phone, she would just dump. Like everything was dumping for years. Like we've been friends since like 6th grade. So we've had this dynamic where she calls and she just dumps it. And I said, you know what? somewhere in the conversation, give me an opportunity to share what I'm going through. Because I had a lot on my plate. I was going through a lot. Right? She's like, I didn't know that. You gave me the opportunity.
Yeah.
But it's not just her fault. It was my fault too.
Yeah.
I waited for 30-something years to say, I'm struggling. Right? And then she started showing up for me.
That's so good.
Yes, thank you for that.
To answer your question about the checklist, it's going to be a hard pill to swallow, but people are going to have it. And it's going to exist. So, with my second part around that is protect your peace. If any of y'all are on those apps, what you may know is the first thing you'll see on a good amount of these profiles, no facts, no facts, at the top of the page, right? And then they start, it's very common in gay apps, Jack, trying all that, it'll be the top of the thing, no facts, no femmes, no blacks, no rice, no spice, and no diseases, no, drug and disease free. And those are like the first things in a profile. And this is on not a couple, a large amount of profiles. So out the gate, checkboxes, right? Then I have to ask myself, is that what I want to get in a relationship with?
Right.
Okay, swipe. So yes, they're gonna exist until they mature or get out of that space. But you know, there's a whole lot of people who don't have that. There's a whole lot of people who are open to different body types and races and backgrounds and all the above, right? You know, I personally, my toes in like a lot of different parts of the community. You know, I hang out with the activists. I hang out with, you know, the little nerdy boys. I hang out with, you know, like the muscle heads. I hang out with all, you know, I have a friends in all these different spaces. And it's so interesting to watch how people move in these different spaces. It's literally like, I really just go to them and observe because it's so interesting. Because like the muscle heads, but man, you know, with me just being the sexiest dude in this club right now, and all I like literally for Randy said this, like you know, everyone, all eyes on me. Like, why didn't you let that guy get there? Like that dude weighs like 400 pounds. What's he even doing? Like it's insane. Like it's insane, right? And then you go to like another group, and then they're always talking about like activism and black revolutionary figures and all that, right? So I get what I need to get in these different spaces, right? If I want to have intelligent conversation and have my mind blown, I'm gonna hang out with this group. If I want to get free in the club, I'm gonna hang out with mustangs. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? If I want to, you know, just go off, I have my party crew. You know, I go to the clubs with it, and I have my vacation crew. And I like to travel internationally because I can trust that you know they're gonna do what they do. So I protect my peace in knowing who is toxic and who is not, and then in those non-toxic spaces, exploring platonic and romantic relationships.
I think with the check boxes too, depending on the capacity that you have, challenging things when you see them. Like if I see all those things on somebody's profile, I'm reporting the profile. Like this is foul, I'm reporting this. But say if it's in-person, interpersonal thing, and you say something like that sounded that phobic, or that sounded this, that sounded that sounded, you know, just calling it, or what did you mean by that when you said that? That didn't sit well with me, but actually like calling it and trying to name like, this is wrong, I don't like this is divisive, it's elitist, it's this, it's that, but just creating the dialogue and saying, this is not healthy, like this is just not healthy. And that takes a lot of energy sometimes, and so that might not always be where we're at, but also being aware of those checkboxes when they come up within ourselves, where's that coming from for me? So I might have a checkbox of, well, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this. And I might be perpetuating those same things. So being able to do the internal reflection too of if I realize like, ooh, maybe I'm a little problematic with my checklist. Being able to do some introspection about that because we can't change others, but I can work to change myself. Like I can work and try to empower people to do something different. I do have control over myself though, and so making sure that I'm not perpetuating these things that I'm seeing that I don't like as well. Which I mean, it's a lot of internalized things that we can be dealing with, and so we might not intentionally be doing that, but it can be there. And so even if we don't have capacity to externally deal with that with others, just being able to self-reflect and see like, what is it that I might be perpetuating too, and how can I work on bettering myself in that way?
Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I guess the question is like for people who are supposed to have like or should have a more significant like impact on your life, like how do you know if you should kind of like awkwardly maintain a relationship or if it's just better to like
that first part.
For people who I feel like should kind of have like who would play like a significant role in your life, like a long-term best friend or a sibling or a parent, like how do you know if it's better to try and maintain that or just walk away?
They can get these boundaries too. I say that like parents, like you can minimize impact, right? How often you talk to them, right? And you go and kind of prepare yourself before you speak with them, right? With friends, I mean, all we're doing is holding on to history. Like if it's not safe anymore, it's not helpful, you guys aren't connecting, you're just holding on to history. But you're able to have that friendship, but it's just not as close as it used to, right? So again, this is all about giving yourself permission to choose better. Like, what do I need in this particular space? Like, I don't feel safe here, so why do I continue this relationship? Because we used to be so close. Seasons change, right? So again, just give yourself permission to kind of move differently.
And I think a question you can ask yourself with any relationship that you're in is, what value does this relationship bring to my life? You know, sometimes we can't choose if it's family or something, but if it's a long-term time best friend, you can say, okay, are we still in a good season? You know, what, not just like, oh, they buy me stuff, no, but like, is our relationship peaceful? Do I feel filled when I'm with them or talking to them? Or do I feel like they're pulling from me, or it's upsetting, or I have some negative emotions after engaging with them? You know, value runs deeper than the stuff on the surface, but like, you know, you want all of your relationships to bring some level of value to, you know, make you a better person, and vice versa. So you can ask yourself those questions too, like, where are we at? Because sometimes people are in your life, what, for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and that changes all the time. And then the other thing I was thinking of, I oftentimes draw these relationship circles when I'm with the patient, and you know, you have your inner circle, your people that are your riders. I call them my Fab Five, right? And those are the people that know like absolutely everything about you. And you might have met that person last year or 20 years ago, right? And then you have the circle around that. That's usually like extended family, or you know, people that you know but know some stuff about you but not a whole lot, right? And you have another outer circle around that, and that could be like family that lives in a different state, or friends you used to be friends with in high school, or something like that. And so if you feel like the relationship is getting a little awkward or it's changing, you don't necessarily have to end the relationship. They might just need to be in a different ring, right? So they might be in that inner Fab Five ring, but they might not need to be like on the outskirts. Where you talk to them and you engage, but it's not as close. Right?
I have a question. So, when people are exiting a relationship, right, is it necessary to have a healthy exit conversation with these individuals?
That's a really good question. I think it really depends on the situation. You could say no, but I think sometimes, you know, and you guys can answer this too, but I think sometimes if you never told the person, but you assume they should know what they did, that's really unfair.
Okay.
Right? But if you've communicated to them already that this is a dislike or this is a boundary violation, then maybe you exit respectfully and say, this is my answer. But I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with communication. You know, you want to be open and honest and transparent with the person of what you need, what you want throughout the relationship, so that they know, and they know those things that upset you too.
And sometimes healthy communication is not communicating at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I know the goal is to be able to share things and to express why we need to stop. But if somebody is unhealthy, somebody is abusive, somebody is disruptive, it's okay to no longer pick up the phone. It's okay to figure out how you want to have closure for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not always with another person.
Yeah.
So you can't have a healthy exit with an unhealthy person.
Exactly. That part.
Yes, My grandmama used to say you cannot rationalize with an irrational person,
Mhm.
and that's just it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That answered your question too.
To your question, I would also say that how you asked the question, you kept saying, should. I don't really believe in shoulds. Like there's a piece of that that's like an external expectation, and it's not necessarily like, is that what you want? But just because society says you should have something or you should maintain something, that doesn't mean it's right for you in your life. And I think that that's the piece of like knowing yourself. Like, does this serve me? Is this right for me? Is this healthy for me? Even if the world says like I should have this, like I should maintain a relationship with my parents, if it's not right for me, I don't have to do that. But I think it's just sometimes being able to break away from societal expectations about what we think things are supposed to look like or what we're told things are supposed to look like can be hard but necessary, because holding on to things once they're expired can sometimes cause more toxicity or things to just kind of fester in ways that make it more unhealthy. And so I think sometimes cutting something off or saying I'm gonna choose to end this before it gets worse can be the healthiest thing that we do. But I think just being able to say I don't have to do something just because the world tells me I have to do it. Doing what's genuine for you.
Right, especially with family, because that's the reality is, are they doing the work too, right? Because otherwise you're not going anywhere, you're just sitting. And you're not going to progress, you're not going to move forward, you're just going to constantly get hurt. So if they're not moving and they're not budging and doing all the work, I love from afar until you're ready to do some work, then we can have another conversation. But I'm checking my piece, baby. You ain't going to keep bringing that stuff up on me? Nope.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's a good point. You can be open to connection again, but maybe just in this season of our life, it's not working for me. And it's okay to take a break from things. It's okay to take a step back. We don't have to do this right now. Maybe when things are different, we can revisit it. But at this time, I need to visit things.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think with family, I think a lot of times we're afraid to tell our parents how we feel or what they did, how it made us feel,
Yeah.
right? And I think there's a way to frame it. What you just did, it doesn't make me feel good. You know, I don't like when that happens. And I really want us to have a better relationship. And this helps us have a better relationship. And if you can't do that, I have to kind of set that boundary, right? Because right now you're in a space, you're in college, you're learning new language, you're learning new things. You're figuring life out. You don't have to stay in a generational pattern that, you know, you do it because your parents did it, right? They did it because their grandparents did it, right? That's what you're supposed to do traditionally, culturally. No, you can shake it up.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Any other questions?
I do, and I think this was all very helpful, and thank you so much. But I do have a question. What about when there is an opening, right? So it's hard, it's gonna take work. But how would you recommend you maintain relationships? So not necessarily trying to find love or maybe find a friendship, but how do you maintain it?
So I can speak from what I did actually in a lot of my relationships, very effective, my romantic relationships. When we've run into conflicts of something that we didn't like about each other, that we did, like for example, I had one who was constantly saying things that would trigger something. He knew that was a trigger point for me when you say that word. And for me, I would nag him on Pisces, whatever. So I would nag him out, right? And so, but nag him in a way that wasn't like effective. So what we did was we made up a code word, which was diamond. And so I knew what diamond meant, he wouldn't do what diamond meant. If he said diamond, that meant that I was doing the nagging thing. If I said diamond, it means he was doing that trigger thing. And we just quickly collected ourselves like, oh shit, because we knew what that meant, you know? And so we stopped in that moment. And we were able to check ourselves, because many times it's not intentional, right?
Right.
So that was a way for us to maintain it. We talked about what the issue is, we talked about what the challenge is, and we've now, without having to go into this long, drawn out conversation about it, you did this, diamond, all right, my bad. We can go with that.
I think it can be really helpful to have relationship check-ins, and I think a lot of people talk about that in the context of their romantic relationships, like checking in about what's working, what's not working, are your needs being met? If not, are there other things that I can do for my needs being met? There's some new things that are going on. You know, just checking in about the status of your relationship. But I think that's really important in friendships too, and especially like we grow growing about all these people and our friends do too. And so who I am when we first started this relationship might not be who I am today. Who you are when we started this relationship might not be who you are today. So just being able to check in and see at this stage in life with where you are, what you have going on, where I am, what I have going on, how are we doing? Are we connected well? Are there things that are being, needs that are not being met? And how can we try to work through that, or how can we figure that out? But I think just being able to check in and have authentic conversations and being able to say, like, yeah, actually, don't feel like I'm getting what I'm needing, or this hurt my feeling, or I need more of this from you. But I think just being able to talk about it can be really helpful to make sure that you all are actually doing things to maintain the relationship and keep it healthy and keep it ongoing.
I think the things that you have established already in the relationship that were healthy, that you continue to do those things.
Yeah.
Sometimes we forget, we do, but, just kind of go back to doing those things that we already have established that are healthy for us.
I agree. I think also something very simple that we sometimes forget in the hustle and bustle and just living our day to day is the golden rule of treating people how we want to be treated. And like if you need this particular thing, someone else might not need it, but being intentional about being kind and caring and things of that nature, those are basic tenets of how we treat other people that I think sometimes can get lost in the sauce very quickly. If we're feeling away or we're going through something, or work is bad, or anything like that, and just remembering, like, how would I want to be approached? How would I want to be talked to, cared for, respected, and trusted?
And one, can I just piggyback off of what you said? And sometimes when we're in relationships, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, don't get lost in that. Remember yourself, because sometimes it makes me think of self-compassion, right? That same compassion that I have for you, I need to have for myself. So when it's difficult to say no, when it's difficult to set that boundary, when I know that this is my loved one, but I still, like, you're really consistently hurting me. If it was, you should be like, girl, what are you doing? You need to be, And if it was me, I would tell her, girl, stop playing, set this boundary. But when it's me, it's I don't give myself that same compassion. I don't give myself that same fight. So just remember, in those relationships, don't lose yourself in it.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Was there any other questions? Okay, well,